Chapter 31. Court. James heaved with relief as a chunky female figure came through the door, holding a hoover and a can of furniture polish. Dana! Oh, thank God it's you. Dana was a 15-year-old cherub who'd been born in Australia. She trained with James loads of times and had accompanied him on a mission earlier that year. Are you on crack? Dana gasped when she saw James rifling through Hewitt's papers. If one of the mission controllers catches you in here, they'll boot your ass out so fast your feet won't touch the ground. Desperate measures, James explained. What are you doing here anyway? What does it look like, brains? Dana said, as she put the hoover down and jiggled her can of polish. This little knob end cut the queue in the dining room. We got in a row, and I ended up whacking him over the head with my tray. Trouble is, 2 teachers walked in as I was doing it, and I copped a month's cleaning duty. Injustice, James tutted bitterly. Campus is crawling with it. I heard you went off on some special birthday weekend. James nodded. Yeah, the girls did it to cheer me up. It was cool. Dana raised an eyebrow. Thanks for the invite, mate. Oh, well, it was a surprise. Kerry and Lauren set it up, and no offense, but I never thought it was your cup of tea. You're more of a lone wolf. Sitting alone in my room, reading Lord of the Rings for the 700th time while I boil frogs in my cauldron? Something like that, James said. He felt uneasy because Dana was holding all the cards. I heard you got suspended after that Aero City thing, Dana said, as she looked at the 3-year-old photo of James amidst the papers scattered over the floor. Is this Hewitt's investigation? James nodded. I'm here because I've got a nasty feeling that he's trying to stitch me up. Why would he do that? I reckon the answer's amongst this lot somewhere, James said, as he dug out the report on the video surveillance and waggled it in the air. There's evidence here that puts me totally in the clear. Hewitt has had it for more than a week, but when I asked 2 days ago, he told me that he was still trying to get it from the CIA and that there was a realistic chance I could be forced to leave Cherub. He could have just got it before he went off. It's dated last week, Dana. And what do you mean, went off? Hewitt left about an hour ago with an overnight bag. He stopped me and moaned that I wasn't cleaning his office well enough. He said he wants me to do the window ledges properly and make sure that the water doesn't spill over when I water his cactus. I'm sorely tempted to piss in his bloody plant. I've never liked him, to be honest, James said. I had him on my second mission, and he was a total pain. Dana nodded. It's the cool guy thing that annoys me. You know, Hewitt goes around dressed like a surf bum with his tongue stud and ripped jeans. But he's actually 30-whatever years old, with a Vauxhall Astra, 2 kids, and a mortgage. Exactly, James said. John Jones is an old baldy, but he's actually a million times cooler than Hewitt. I've worked with most of the mission controllers, and Hewitt's definitely my least favourite. James looked forlornly at his stack of papers, then up at Dana. I have to know what he's up to, but I can't go through all this on my own. You couldn't give us a hand, could you? This is some serious shit, Dana said, shaking her head uncertainly. Please, James said, but immediately regretted it. Dana didn't stand for any kind of nonsense, and the plea made him sound pathetic. Give me a second to think, Dana snapped. Then after a pause, Hewitt's not going to be back until late tomorrow. How about we load all of those papers into a bin liner? We'll have to be careful not to jumble them up. Some of those documents are tagged, so you'd set off the alarm if you went out the front way, but I can stick them on the cleaning cart and put them out with the rubbish. You wait around the back and grab them while I'm putting the real rubbish into the incinerator. We'll go back to your room and start going through them. Then I'll put everything back early tomorrow morning." James broke into a big smile. "You might have just saved my life." Dana wagged her finger. "And you'd better remember it next time there's free go-karting and fancy hotels being bandied about." Carrying a bin liner across campus might arouse suspicions, so while Dana finished cleaning, James ran off to grab a backpack. Within 40 minutes, he was standing in his room with Hewitt's paperwork stacked on his bed. "Gotta do this by the book," Dana said, as she pulled on a set of disposable plastic gloves. "Hewitt can't know that we've been through the papers. If anything makes him suspicious, he'll ask for the video footage from the corridor outside his office, and we'll be dead ducks. Only thing is, they might be a bit fingerprinted and out of order already," James replied. "I dropped some stuff when you came in and surprised me, but I reckon I can put it back more or less as it was." All Cherubs are trained to speed read and taught proper procedures for going through documents. After removing all the junk from around James's bed, Dana took a digital camera and snapped a couple of photographs so that they'd be able to reassemble the stack precisely after going through it. "Even speed reading won't get us through all of this," Dana said. "We'll take half each and try and identify key documents, especially anything written by Hewitt that gives us some idea of his thought processes." James had been on the same espionage courses as Dana, and only resisted the urge to make a comment about not being born yesterday because she was doing him a massive favour. After breaking the stack of papers into evenly sized piles, James took the bottom half and found himself staring at MI5 personnel files for Boris and Isla Kutenkov. "Snidey," James said as he held the document up to show Dana. "Here's something else Hewitt told me he hadn't been able to get hold of." He was surprised to learn that as well as being husband and wife, Boris and Isla were also cousins. During the Soviet era, they had risked death or life imprisonment in a brutal labour camp to pass valuable intelligence on Russian weapons technology to the West. "Listen to this," James said, as he read a section of the report that Hewitt had highlighted. "The Kutenkovs were financially well rewarded by British and American intelligence services. However, they lost everything trying to set up a Moscow-based dry cleaning business and offered their services to MI5 once again in 1998. They were able to use long-standing contacts within the Soviet weapons industry to set themselves up as illicit weapons dealers, but have griped constantly about their low wages, low status, and the lack of pension provision." Dana nodded. "Sounds like the sort of people who take a bung to bump off Dennis Oberdon." Then she burst out laughing. "What's so funny?" Dana read an extract written by a health visitor 7 years earlier. "James Choke is a bright and thoughtful 8-year-old, although he does have difficulty controlling his temper at times. Unfortunately, James's bedwetting problem persists, and this is not helped by his younger sister Lauren, who teases him mercilessly and refers to him as Mr. Piddlepants." "Hey," James gasped. "Gimme that. You're supposed to be going through Hewitt's stuff, not my personal file." "I've got to be thorough," Dana giggled. "Dana, I could be kicked out of Cherub and you're making jokes." "I know it's serious, Piddlepants. It might have escaped your attention, but I'm running as big a risk as you." Dana couldn't stop laughing as James turned sourly back to his paperwork. "Is your laptop switched on?" she asked a couple of minutes later. "I need the internet." "Sure. Are you onto something?" "Maybe. I'll tell you in a minute." "What do you know about Hilton Aerospace, by the way?" James shrugged. "Not a huge amount. It's a British company, but it has massive contracts in Aero City, refurbishing Russian airliners and stuff. Contracts with Dennis Oberdon? Dana asked. Absolutely, James nodded. The Oberdon family practically owns the whole town. Both dead, Dana said, as she frantically tapped at James's laptop. Who's dead? James asked, as he put his paperwork down on the carpet and shuffled over to the computer on his knees. Dana held up a handwritten list of names. Hewitt had scrawled arrows, numbers, and question marks between them. Dana pointed to each name in turn. Dennis Oberdon, dead. Boris and Isla, dead. Lord Hilton, still alive, but if I'm reading this diagram right, Hewitt thinks he used a holding company to pay Boris and Isla $50,000. Then there's this guy, Sebastian Hilton. I'm not sure where he links in, but I guess he's Lord Hilton's brother or son or something. Just saw a photocopy of his Who's Who entry in my pile, James said. He's Lord Hilton's son, a member of Parliament, and the new junior intelligence minister. And the plot thickens, Dana grinned, as she tapped another search into Google. So what are these 4 other names? James asked, as he looked at the bottom of the piece of paper. Claire Nazareth, Dana said, reading a local newspaper report from the laptop screen. Research scientist Claire Nazareth died tragically from carbon monoxide poisoning in her Hertfordshire home. The 58-year-old mother of 2 had worked for Hilton Aerospace for more than 30 years and had published more than 80 scientific papers. Her most notable work was in the field of ceramic jet engine technology. Does it say when she died? James asked. 2 weeks yesterday. That's just after I got back from Aero City. Dana had a Google search on another name running in a different tab. Oh, Dana gasped. Another one bites the dust. James looked at an image of an elderly woman on his laptop screen as Dana read aloud. 73-year-old Madeline Cowell was found dead in her Hertfordshire home. 2 sons, recently widowed, blah blah blah, possibly confused over her medication. Police believe there are no suspicious circumstances. Who was she? Dana clicked on a couple of different links, but didn't find anything new. Maybe we'll pick something up in the documents. So what about these 2 other names at the bottom? James asked. Jason McLeod and Sarah Thomas. Dana pointed to a sheet standing in the out tray of James's printer. Looks like McLeod is a scientific journalist. I did a research for his name and it came up with hundreds of articles. So I narrowed it down by doing Jason McLeod Hilton Aerospace. James pulled the piece of paper out of his printer. The article was from the online edition of Aerospace World magazine. No surprise as ceramic jet technology faces another setback, by Jason McLeod. Since the dawn of the jet age, engineers have tried replacing metal components inside jet engines with ceramics. Theoretically, the thermal properties of a ceramic engine should enable it to spin faster and produce significantly more power than a metal equivalent. But reality has consistently failed to live up to the hype. The latest blow is the decision by Hilton Aerospace to stop funding its ceramics research facility in Aero City, Russia. This correspondent travelled to Aero City to speak with Dennis Oberdon. Oberdon remains in typically bullish mood, but many commentators say that the closure is the final nail in Oberdon's dream of building a modern Russian aerospace industry to compete with America and the Europeans. Log in to read the full article. For immediate access, purchase an online subscription here. All seems to tie up somehow, James said. Lord Hilton withdraws funding from Dennis Oberdon's pet project. They have some kind of falling out, and Hilton ends up paying Boris and Isla to kill him. I can see that, Dana nodded. Two businessmen falling out is nothing to write home about, but this is in an entirely different league. What did Oberdon have that makes Lord Hilton turn to the dirty deeds department? Something that threatens his life, his career, or his family? Obviously, Dana said. Ah, got her. I found a website for an air show that took place back in 2002. Members of the press wishing to interview Lord Hilton should in the first instance contact his personal assistant, Madeline Cowell. Blimey, James said. So that's Lord Hilton's business partner, personal assistant, and one of his top scientists all bumped off in the space of 3 weeks. You'd think someone would have twigged. Not necessarily, Dana said. The secretary was an old lady, and Oberdon was 3,000 kilometres away. The only death likely to raise an eyebrow in this country is the scientist. So apart from Lord Hilton and his son, the journalist Jason McLeod and this Sarah Thomas woman are the only ones on the list who are still alive. Exactly, Dana nodded. James thought for a few seconds. Anything on who Sarah Thomas is? The name is way too common, Dana said. I just went into the Cherub server and accessed the UK electoral roll. There are 5,317 people in Britain called Sarah Thomas. So, what next? Dana pointed at the piles of papers. Keep shuffling, dude.